Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to introduce Josh Brecheisen, and he is here to talk to us about his time using extreme focus coaching. I love the name of his company. It's VBMindsetter. And as a volleyball professional and expert, this is a really great name. But anyway, we've got Josh here. He's a renowned speaker, entrepreneur, and extreme focus coach. And he's played volleyball at BYU. They won 2004 national championship when he was on the team, and he works with professional, adult, and youth players using the extreme focus signature pre-game mental performance technique called Game Ready. Some of his top achievements include working with Dave Watton to go from number 22 to arguably the #1 passing libero in the world, and Zoe Fleck to become first team All-American and winning the 2022 national championship. So he's worked with high school players, boys and girls, and he coaches so many different people. We're going to learn a lot about him. But welcome, Josh. Really happy to have you, and I'm excited to just learn more about how you're using extreme focus in your coaching and just what you've been able to achieve as a coach. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be
Is
here.
there anything else you want to add to this incredible bio and tell us about yourself a
Oh,
little bit?
yeah, I don't know. Um, been able to work with some pretty amazing players at the pro level, and I'm actually working with my first Olympic player, team members that had been on Olympic teams, but never someone who actually played in the Olympics, working with them while they're there. So that's exciting. And working with some great youth clubs throughout the country. And I did other coaching before I got into this, but extreme focus really propelled my career into the sports um, coaching.
Do you have an athlete that's going to Paris?
Yeah, so
Oh,
Eric
amazing.
Lefebvre with Team Canada is in Paris right now, and then also Taylor Averill with Team USA. He's a middle blocker. So yeah, I have two players in the Olympics right now.
That's incredible. Wow. Okay, so I want to hear a little more about what drew you into getting certified as an extreme focus coach.
Yeah, I had been running a recruiting agency for about 8 years, and I started to morph more into a consultancy. I was coaching recruiters, and I had been using the Gallup Strengths Finder to build my own business. So I started coaching on the Gallup Strengths Finder, really started moving into this arena of positive psychology. And I went and I spent a week with Bob Proctor up in Toronto, and just kind of immersed myself into this arena and started coaching. And along that, while I was doing that, I ran into Dave Austin. We were talking about ways that he was helping veterans to kind of get back to normal life. And we started talking about that, and I asked him some of the other things he coached in. He started telling me about all the Major League Baseball MVPs that he kind of helped take from AAA up to the majors to become like team MVPs and Cy Young Award nominees and things like that. And I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. And he called me after I left his house. Actually, I left, and like 10 minutes later, he called me and he was like, I didn't think about it while you were here, but would you have any interest in taking the extreme focus, the extreme focus coaching to the world of volleyball? And it was just a no-brainer. It was like, boom, absolutely. Are you kidding me? My whole life I've wanted to marry business and sports. I just didn't really find the avenue to do it. And this is just perfect timing. I felt like everything was right. I did not hesitate. So yeah, it was that's the route I took to come to this point.
Wow. So, can you share a specific instance or story where the techniques that you learned through your certification really impacted one of your clients or has it helped? I mean, now it feels like you're you're doing so much of what Dave did. You're working with Olympians, you're working with the pros, you're like really giving them these results. And that's what really drew me in is like what coaching techniques are taking people to the top of their game and really working, right? Like we can say
Yeah.
I'm a coach and I can help you, but like having the techniques that really make a difference and get people at Olympic level or pro level to get results is just incredible, right?
So I think two major concepts. The game ready. Um, Neuroscientist Bo Lotto says that context is everything, especially right before you're about to perform.
Mm.
And so having the game ready pre-game visualization, it really helps lock in the things that people want to focus on before they go and play to a degree that they've never felt before. It's not just like any visualization. It's a very specific formula that produces this consistent result with my clients.
Mm.
The second thing I would mention are the beast triggers. And the beast triggers allow you to take lots of different concepts even from their coaches or other, positive mindset philosophies. It just makes them more actionable. And they are also able to recall on them. And it also gives them this kind of alternate personality when they're on the court that just allows them to divorce themselves from a lot of the psychology and the distractions that usually go on in their mind and allows them to be extremely focused, right? That's what we call extreme focus. And so I think those are the concepts that I think make the biggest impact on the players.
Wow. Yeah, and is there one example, like, can you tell us a story about someone that you've been able to help that you used that extreme focus, like the beast triggers or the game ready, and it just something shifted in them where they got to perform at a level they weren't able to perform at before?
Yeah, there's lots, right?
Yeah,
Because it's just
I
crazy
know.
to me. I started doing this, and all of a sudden you try it for yourself, and people are saying, "Hey, you're playing ball different." And then and I'm like playing old man ball, but people are still noticing. And then I start working with players, and they're noticing it. And like Dustin Watton, my first player, for example, he's known as the mindful volleyball player in the volleyball community. And I still was able to take him to new higher levels. But I think one of the funnest ones um, was when I was working with Eric Lefebvre last summer, and Team Canada was trying to qualify for the Olympics, right? And we were just really on this high of just believing, like just having this high level of belief, right? Believing the best is going to show up. And they were in a situation where they were on the brink. They didn't know if they were going to make it or not. And they actually lost, I think it was Bulgaria. I'm trying to remember if it was Bulgaria or Belgium, but they lost to, I think, to Bulgaria, and that knocked them out of the Olympics.
Hmm.
And so they didn't qualify. And I remember this moment, like Eric calling me, like we were voice messaging on WhatsApp, and he was just like, "Yeah, we're all bummed." Like, and for a second, I was sitting there in my truck and just going, "Oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have like made him believe so much, and maybe I shouldn't have been so hopeful. Maybe this stuff doesn't work
Or
like
yeah.
as well as I think it was." And I was like, "No, no, we're going to believe." So I messaged him back and I'm like, "No, Eric, I have no clue what's going to happen, but we have to believe. Like I believe like this is going to happen." And that day, Belgium upsets Bulgaria, opening the door for Team Canada to qualify. They have to beat Mexico in 3 to get enough points to qualify to beat out Bulgaria. And I gave him this game ready called Co. Co is the Rhino, just absolutely committed. And with him, it's we're committed to his creativity. We're committed to winning every ball. We never play tentative. We never just try to play it safe. We go to win, right? And so he went in there, and I gave him this game ready with that mindset, and he went off. He was crushing balls, getting aces. He was even hitting just crushing balls off second, the second ball, right? Like just you dig the
Yeah.
ball, he was just crushing it out of the back row. Like he just had such urgency.
Yeah.
And they qualified for the Olympics, and now he's in Paris right now. And so it's just one of the funnest stories.
That's incredible. That's so incredible. I often say like the most steady frequency will always dominate, you know? And that's such an example of that is like when you stay in the frequency of belief, it will beat out the like if there's any fragment of doubt. And there are times like I've had so many times of that where like I know the concept, but then you get hit and you just go, oh, maybe this doesn't work. Like maybe what's going on? And I love that you brought that up. Like it's not that you never have a doubt. It's that when you have a doubt, you step back in to that belief and it works. It works. This stuff works. It's so
It
cool.
does. And it's not
Wow.
guaranteeing that's going to happen every time. Some of my clients, Dustin Watt was like, I don't know, it guarantees my success. But, I'm a little more sheepish on that. I'm like, hey, no, but at least we're putting as Dave says, we're putting ourselves in a position to win. It doesn't mean we're always going to get the outcome we want,
No.
but at least we're in the game. We're putting ourselves in position to win. And
Yeah.
because of that, I believe we win more often.
Yeah. And you're doing like all that you can do and you're playing like your best more often and you're proud of how you showed up, right? And that's a
Right.
huge part of it is like, yeah, they may have just had an incredible game and played their entire team all together, got into flow state or something, and you're like, okay, like congratulations, you guys played well, but at least you know that you did your best, and that's incredible.
In retrospect, Eric told me that his energy rubbed off on the team too. Like
Yeah,
they felt that urgency. It was infectious.
yeah,
It's just amazing what you can do with just a little bit of belief. It's so cool.
yeah. And like I know Dave had worked with the Dodgers or like the Oakland A's and that kind of thing, but like there's one thing to work with an entire team, but just doing working with one player has that kind of effect, right? Like sometimes you don't just having raising the level of one player on the team, they're all an organism, right? And
Uh,
it makes a huge impact. In contrast to how sports are and teams and athletes especially are typically is like there's this focus on what we did wrong or how we need to improve and the loss that happens it's like this full team experience of just grief and remorse and we all go into it together as a team. I played volleyball through junior high and high school and I remember that feeling and then there's this total focus of this is what we did wrong in the last one, right? And it's just such a difference. It's a different way of doing things. And yeah, do you have anything to kind of know on the contrast of what you do or how you help teams show up so differently than what we're almost like habitually or programmed to do?
yeah, it's our minds go there. I mean, I think it's funny. Like I'll ask Eric, for example, since we were talking about Eric, I will ask Eric, "Well, how do you think the match went?" And he'll be like, oh man, I feel like this and that was off and that. And then I'll be like, okay, cool. And what was your hitting percentage? He was like 530. I'm like, 530? For those who don't know, it's a lot like baseball batting averages, right? So to hit 530 is ridiculous for an outside hitter. Middle hitters, they usually hit up in that area. But outside hitters, usually it sounds more like a batting average in baseball, like 270, 305, like that. That's like,
Yeah.
whoa, you're top dog. So hitting 600, and he's just like, oh, and so I have to shift his mind to that all the time. It's like, bro, you're hitting 500. Are you kidding me? Like, yes, I love that you want to push yourself. Keep pushing yourself to improve. But let's just think about how much you're dominating and let's let that propel us instead of trying to shore up all these mistakes. Let's just crowd them out instead of like trying to fix them. Let's just crowd them out. So I think that's
Yeah.
might be a good way to explain my philosophy on that.
That's a great, yeah, I like that idea of crowding it out. Like when I first met Dave, we met at an event, and he started to share about the story of one of his MVPs or someone. They were interviewing him on ESPN, and they said, "What's your secret? You went from like 40th in the league until like the top in the league." And what he said, "Every day I do my 3 wins." And I'm like, oh, with every one of my clients, the first thing we do is 3 wins. And I think it's like so powerful to start with that. Like you get into a coaching conversation and immediately like, well, I need you to help me fix this and this and this and this is what's wrong. But when you focus on what you're doing well, what you focus on, you get more of, right? And when you focus on the wins, and even all week they're thinking, what are the wins I'm going to tell Paige? And then each day they're thinking of that. And this guy said it was the number one thing that made the biggest difference and took him to the very top of his game was doing the wins. But there's so much power in where we focus, right? And when you're with a coach that's bringing you into that place, again, we get what we focus on, right? We get more of what we focus on.
Absolutely. And for me, I really take this phrase from Charles Hannell, from the Master Key System. Bob Proctor learned from Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale learned from Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill learned from Charles Hannell. And in Charles Hannell book, he calls it the predominant mental attitude. And so I really focus on that phrase with players. Like we need to create a predominant mental attitude of success.
Hmm. That's so good. What a cool pedigree you have of
Yeah.
coaching mentors. Like that's pretty,
Yeah, it's kind of nice
pretty
to be, somewhere
incredible.
along the line of that pedigree.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So, back to the extreme focus, how has the extreme focus certification differentiated you from other coaches in the industry?
Here's where I feel it differentiates me is when you look at all the different systems and positive coaching, I'm never competing with anyone because the game ready and the beast triggers are like a GUI, like, right? They're the interface. You just set them on top of any other coaching. Doesn't matter what type of coaching it is. You set it on top and it makes it more actionable. And so I'm never in competition. I always can just say, great, I love that philosophy. Let's amplify it through the game ready. Let's put it into greater action with the beast triggers. Right? Let's get back to it faster by using the beast triggers. So I think that's how it differentiates. You're never in competition with other mindset coaches. You're always amplifying what they're doing, and people recognize that.
I love that. We talked about becoming a top one percenter, right? And you're working with the top one percenters in your sport, and you are a top 1% coach. And I think that's the differentiation. And it really is. It's what takes you from being a great coach to being a top 1% coach, right? And that's really cool. So, is there any other ways that the certifications really helped you grow the success of your business, or like just helps you be more successful as a coach?
Yeah, I would say on top of the certification, just being part of Dave's core communities, COUR, which is the lion, right? Being part of the core calls, as we call them, and that community to be able to keep in touch with Dave monthly and our other coaches and ideate together and help each other solve business problems. It's just a huge sounding board. So many intelligent, successful coaches in so many different areas of business and sports. That's been a huge value in helping me to overcome barriers, problem solve, and be successful in my business.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you brought that up because not only are we going to do, and I hope to see you in October at the event. And it's really just almost becomes family where these coaches, you guys know each other, and you're coming to the certification retreat that we're doing. A lot of them are, and it's going to be so cool. But we do 3 days of in-person at the beginning of the certification, and then we have 6 months, and it's weekly classes and trainings and Q&As and all sorts of things. And then you also have some online classes and programs that you can do at your own pace. But then at the end of the 6 months in April, we're meeting together for another 3-day retreat. And it's kind of a graduation celebration. We're going to be teaching each other and practicing and all sorts of things. But what's cool and what Josh just brought up is it continues beyond that. And you get together each month and you continue to support each other. And that's so powerful, so different and unique, because there's something to just, you're working with an athlete, and if it works in one realm, it works in another, right? This is what a cool thing is like some people are working with CEOs and with corporations, and some people are working with athletes at an Olympic level or in pro sports or whatever it is. But the concepts remain the same, and we can all learn from each other and troubleshoot and stuff. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you. Oh, it's so good to be with you. I'm excited to meet you in person. And is there anything else that you want to share before we finish up?
There's nothing that Dave can't do, I'll tell you that much. To be able to, I know I talked up, hey, Bob Proctor, that pedigree, but Dave's got his own pedigree, and he's been able to just do amazing thing after amazing thing. I love his Moonshots series, and I've learned a lot from him just in that mindset that I'm talking about, with his just believing, right? He often says, how does it get any better, right? He and his wife Kathy will say, can it get any better? It's like, let's try, let's see if it can get any better. It's just I've loved that philosophy, has led Dave to just be successful in just about everything he's done, from surfing to television to music to sports to business, and the list goes on and on. I laugh with him, like, oh, is there anything you haven't did? And I'll just tell a story, telling a story about Karch Karai, and I'm like, oh, joke. Dave's probably got some crazy story about Karch Karai too, and then he's like, actually, yeah, I was on a flight back to Southern California and sat next to Karch, and you're like, Dave, you're amazing. It never ends with Dave. He's just so amazing.
It really is mind blowing. Like, it's just opened my eyes to the impossible being possible, right? And he talks about that, but it is so true. Like, literally nothing is impossible, and he's evidence of that. He's a perfect, incredible example of that. And so just to be in his realm has been, as I know for me, just has taken me to the next level. Just hearing his stories and learning from him, and yeah, it is wild to be in his world, because it really does show you nothing's impossible. There's no realm that these principles don't work in, because he's done it, and the people in his world do too, which is super cool, right?
Right?
Like, yeah, he has.
Yeah, and I would add, that's one of the greatest things. Like, you feel the energy from Dave is, and I've been telling, like, passing this, Dave's kind of like mentored me here, and I'm passing this on to my players. It's just, life is so much more fun when you expect the miracles, you expect the most amazing things to happen to you. And so I don't even care if I win or lose, which is great, because now I'm divorcing myself from all the psychology that comes along with, like, marrying yourself to outcomes. And it's just, even the sport is going to be more fun for you. Life is more fun. It's just a much funner way to live your life.
I love that so much. My brand is spiral up into the life that you love. But it's just, that's the game, right? Like, let's live in lives that we love. And yeah, this stuff is the path. It's a path, the path. It's beautiful, and just the enthusiasm of the people in this world is contagious, and it's just so much fun. So on Extreme Focus, I know, Josh, you just mentioned Moonshots, but I wanted to let you know that if you go to extremefocus.com and /moonshots, or just up in the corner it says Moonshots, you can watch this, and it is so worth your time. I binge watched the whole thing when I got it because I was like, this is amazing! Like what this person has done, and his stories, they're just so inspiring. So definitely check that out. And thanks again, Josh. Really appreciate your time and coming on, and look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah, absolutely.